Where?
I see you've finally woken up, Kyle.
Kyle.
Ah, yes. Of course. You've only just woken up in this timeline. It's only natural for some of your memories to be missing.
I lurched upright, jumped off the bed, and ran around to the other side of the partition. The mirror over the sink was covered with a film of dirt. I wiped it off with my sleeve, and my reflection stared back at me. Okay, so that explains why he couldn't see his reflection before. That was something that I had an issue with. I was like, there were mirrors in this game. How did he not see his reflection before? There was no mistake. The reflection belonged to...
Kyle Climb. So, I'm Dr. Climb? Zero Senior's clone?
What? How do you know that? Shouldn't you still be suffering from amnesia?
An excellent question. One I didn't quite know the answer to myself. I knew who Kyle Climb was. In another history, he'd been called K and had worn a suit of armor. He hadn't just worn the armor in that history, though. Apparently, he'd worn it all his life. Kyle had been born and raised in this lunar installation, which seemed to be called Rhizome 9. Rather late in his life, Akane had appeared as a mother figure, and he had consequently grown very attached to her. I knew everything about him, but even though I knew it, I didn't feel it. Was I really Kyle Climb? Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw his face. Spitting image of Sigma Climb in his younger days. I looked down. There was Dio, still handcuffed. Oh, okay. Now I know when I am. I turned back around to Luna.
What day is today?
January 27th, 2074.
Today is the last day of the AB project. Akane has explained everything in the garden. And she drew a knife and attacked Phi. How long have I been asleep?
About 5 hours in real time. For them, it would have seemed like a little more than 2 hours.
So they still haven't been treated for their Radical 6?
No, they've all been given the antiviral. It just takes a while to have an effect.
I see. So the consciousness of the younger Sigma has gone back into the past. It should have happened right after Akane attacked Phi, right?
Yes.
Why am I here?
The doctor carried you back here. You were in the pod in the garden.
So the person you call the Doctor is Sigma Climb, as inhabited by his age-appropriate consciousness.
Yes, but how do you know that?
Dio seems to have remained unconscious.
Yes, I've been administering Soparil whenever he gets restless.
What about the others?
They've all gone off to different areas. Tenmyoji and Quark, for instance.
This is cool. It's kind of like you're saying goodbye to all the characters.
Right! Mr. Climb!
So the sleepyhead's finally up, huh?
What are you two doing here?
You don't know where we are?
This is the upper floor of the pressure exchange chamber. The real one.
Mm-hmm.
We were just about to get dressed and head out.
You plan to return then? To Earth, I mean.
Yeah.
Sigma told us where we could find the shuttle that brought us here. Well, guess he's not really the Sigma I knew anymore. He's Dr. Climb now, or Zero Senior, depending on how you look at it.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Well, I'm just curious why you would choose to return to a devastated planet when you could stay here.
How's staying here gonna help? You aren't gonna say something idiotic about how we should wait here until Sigma changes the past, are you? You can't wait for something that's already happened. Grammar doesn't work that way. Hell, nature doesn't work that way. You following me? We've already lived through history. Sigma failed to keep the virus from getting out. About 45 years ago, Radical 6 created a pandemic, and the antimatter reactors blew up. That all happened. Whatever Sigma does in the past, History's not gonna change.
It is kind of interesting how the events in this universe do seem to kind of mirror the events in the Danganronpa universe. Would be really cool if there was a crossover.
In fact, it's because of what he did or didn't do in the past that we've got this past and present. Let me give you an example. Imagine a group of 100 motorcycles driving down an endless freeway. Eventually, they hit a junction. The road splits in two. One freeway continues off northwest, and the other stretches out to the northeast. So one guy, we'll call him S, pipes up. "Let's go northwest," he says. So they take the northwestern road. But about a mile past the intersection, something horrible happens. A semi driving the other way veers into their lane and plows through the bikers. 90 of them die. The surviving 10 are wounded, but survive. They don't stop, though. They keep riding down that highway, and eventually they'd gone 10,000 miles. Then suddenly, something happens that they couldn't have predicted. S, who had survived, suddenly has his consciousness thrown back in time. He ends up back in his own body just before they reach the junction. He remembers everything. So what does S do? What anybody would do. Let's go northeast. That means all 100 of the bikers survive to reach their destination, happy and healthy. And they all live happily ever after. That's what you're thinking, right? It's a great outcome for the 100 bikers that went northeast. But what about the 10 that went northwest and survived the accident?
Huh? Wouldn't it be 9 people? I mean, S's mind went back in time, right?
Right. Okay, 9 people then. What happens to the reality they were living? Does it just disappear when S changes the past? It's not as if it was only bad things that happened during that 10,000-mile trip. Maybe one of them fell in love with a woman working at a gas station they stopped at and had a child. Maybe one of them picked up a homeless kid who joined them on their adventure. That 10,000-mile journey would be full of stories. Friendships, farewells, romances. The loss of those 90 lives is horrible and unfortunate. But what would rewriting their history mean?
It does raise a quick question.
The 9 who survived lived full lives. How can it be right to just erase all that? The survivors overcame their own misery and loss and made the best they could of the hand they'd been dealt. Isn't that worth something? Isn't that the best thing that humans can aspire to? Is there really any point to a world where everything is happy? Are people who struggle for a better life just idiots? Being human is about fighting, even when it seems hopeless, and finding happiness, even in a world that hates it. Are you saying that's worthless? If you're saying rewriting the past will erase all these other timelines, then whatever God wrote those rules can Look, I'm just not going to accept that, all right? You get it?
If Sigma changes the past, then you and Quark will never meet.
Is he right?
No.
No, I'm of the belief that this timeline will keep going for them. You know? In their minds, in their consciousnesses, this is history. This is a separate timeline. However, Sigma is going to go back in the third game, by the way, and make things right in his timeline. There will be another Tenmyoji, there will be another Quark. In that timeline, they may not meet.
It's not going to happen. We're here right now. This is reality. Even if Sigma does change the past, we're not just going to disappear or something.
You already would have, if that were the case.
Oh! Then that means we get to stay together? Good.
Thanks, kid.
I understand how you feel. Why you want to return to Earth is clear. You have lives there, I imagine. There are likely people waiting for you.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Well, why would he want to leave? Akane is here.
Have you already said goodbye to the others?
Bye, Luna, Alice, and Clover all saw us off. We told them we'd see him again someday, and then came here.
They were the only people you want to say goodbye to?
Well, no point saying anything to Dio.
Besides, he's asleep. You were asleep too.
Sorry, but we didn't really know much about you.
You have a point. Akane was in the armor in this timeline, after all. What about Sigma?
Well, he's not really Mr. Sigma anymore.
Of course, he is Dr. Klein now that his consciousness has returned.
Yeah, but more importantly, he's the guy who brought us all here.
Ooh, I would love to talk to Dr. Klein. That would be really cool. I've not seen this ending before, by the way. This last section here. To see this, you have to complete the entire, all the rooms in hard mode. We were able to do that this time around. I was not the first time. But then again, if you complete it on easy, all you have to do is just go back through all the rooms. You know all the passwords, just put all the passwords in. It's super easy. Well, actually no, that would not be the case because, well, yeah, you can get all the secret files in easy mode and then then just play them all. Yeah, that's what you should do if you have to play it on easy. On easy mode, they do give you a lot more hints. They do help you a lot.
Not a lot of warm feelings there, you know?
And Akane?
Never mind her.
Seriously, why are you just leaving her? Wouldn't you want to spend more time with her? Although I guess too much time has passed. Maybe his heart finally... moved on.
She's just like him. Not the Akane I knew.
That's really sad.
She must have seen some pretty awful things over the years. Hell, she might not even be human anymore. But the Akane Kurashiki I know isn't here. She's not anywhere.